And now, your go-to source for year-round fantasy hockey advice, DFS, and betting coverage. This is NHL Fantasy on Ice, presented by Skip, the official food delivery app of the NHL.
Hope you're having a fantastic holiday season, brought to you by our good friends over at Skip. It's time for another episode of NHL Fantasy on Ice, Week 12, Mailbag Edition. Nick Alberga, Anna Dua, and of course, Pete Jensen. How are you, Pete?
Happy holidays, Nick. Happy holidays, Anna. Skip, of course, the official food delivery app of the NHL. And yeah, this will be an all-encompassing show as we wrap up the 2023 calendar year. Some pickups, some injury updates. We'll touch base after a couple games since we last talked and some trends. And also we'll, put a cap on the season and talk about some big surprises and guys who have opened our eyes over the past year.
Yeah, it's been a crazy 2023, guys, especially in the NHL. I'm kind of over this year. I want some stability in 2024, but we'll dive into that right now.
I don't think you're going to get that, but we are on fraud alert on this podcast. But let's start with a team, Pete, making some hay here after a coaching change, a new coach bump, if you will. The Minnesota Wild, Petey, 11-3 under John Hynes now.
Right, and we were just talking right before the show, like I'm starting to look at Minnesota as a dark horse team and the ceiling being very high again because they're getting great goaltending from Gustafsson. Anna, I know you were high on that player in the preseason, and the scoring depth is there when you see the contributions of Brock Faber, who we talked about first week of the season and now is all the way up, close to Luke Hughes among the defenseman scoring leaders among rookies.
Minnesota is one of those teams that I was really high on in the preseason that I looked really bad at the start of the year, especially with the way Filip Gustafsson was playing. But you look at how this team has rallied even without a guy like Matt Zuccarello, and that's where they stand out to me as legit right now. And I think they're going to change everything around because their depth players are coming out to play. Eriksson Ek is the guy we mentioned on this podcast many times. He's looking good right now. Rossi's looking good right now. Marcus Foligno is looking good right now. It goes beyond just the big name guys in Minnesota, and Kirill Kaprizov is starting to look like himself again. Finally, 5 goals in his past 5 games. So maybe he turns it around in 2024.
It's pretty crazy. I think when you look at draft steals of the year, I think Joel Eriksson Ek has to be on that. I took a flyer on this guy in 2 of my drafts, and he's been unbelievable, Pete, performing a top 70 fantasy player right now. And I just think there's so much juice still with the Minnesota Wild. That's the big story for me. They've been extremely banged up, but it seems like Kaprizov's taking over here. I'm not going to say he's going to win the Hart Trophy, but I think if they continue along this road, I mean, there's a lot of value to be found in many right now, Pete.
Definitely. And for most of the season, if not still, Eriksson Ek has been ranked ahead of Kaprizov, who was like a first or second round pick in fantasy this year. That's a really high floor for that player. And he's just, he broke out 2 seasons ago, and he's just kept it rolling, net front and the power play, does it all, covers every category. We touched on Ryan Hartman previous show. Yep. He came back from injury and scored a goal yesterday. Electric. I mean, that's one of my favorite jerseys in the league when they wear that, lighter green, like the North Stars, ode to the North Stars. But I feel like they are showing signs of life here where they've been the best team in the NHL in terms of points since the coaching change with 11-3-0.
They have. And Anna, I want to tee you up for your boy Sean Durzi starting to cook in a big way for the Arizona Coyotes. You're actually headed to AZ and Mullet Arena next week, right?
I am. Wow. I'm going to be in Mullet. Guys, I'm so excited to see the atmosphere of this arena for the first time in person. I had to go. I planned my whole birthday trip around going to Arizona just to watch the Coyotes because they're electric this year. And you saw that. This team is a team that you can't count out in any single game. Their game against the Avalanche looked like Colorado was going to win that game by a landslide. In Arizona, they have sneaky upside. They have a lot of depth. Sean Durzi, obviously on that top power play unit for the Coyotes. When I look at that unit, guys, that is one of the best values you can find on the man advantage with the players they have on that top unit. And Sean Durzi, a big beneficiary of that.
If only Logan Cooley can find his footing at the NHL level, then Arizona is going to be unstoppable. And I think in general, you look at that Central Division, there's just so many good teams. You look at Durzi specifically, Pete, 3-game point streak, 1 goal, 6 assists, 7 points. Obviously, a lot of value with AZ. Vejmelka gets the victory. Obviously, what's going on in between the pipes there is something to monitor too. But again, there's a lot of guys on that roster producing. And it's just so fascinating. You even look at a team like Colorado. I think there's opportunity at the very least in that division right now, Pete, in the Central.
Definitely. I mean, I feel like Dallas with Ottinger injured is human now. It's not the same look for them in the short term. And then, Yeah, with Arizona, like I remember I was super high on Dursey in the offseason. Like I remember Anna was high as like on Arizona at large, but high on Velarde, like we talked about last show, as an offseason mover. Like the second I saw that trade, I'm like, this guy is going to work it on the power play. He was so good on LA's second power play the previous 2 years to start off his NHL career that you just saw that opportunity about to blossom with Clayton Keller and Nick Schmaltz and some of these guys, these unheralded guys that are making them one of the dangerous man advantage units in the whole league.
Speaking of which, delivered by good friends over at Skip, we got some questions here, Anna, about Brent Burns, and I think conveniently enough, these questions were asked before he went ape on Wednesday for the Carolina Hurricanes. In general, I love the buy low appeal of the Canes. They're starting to cook in a big-time way. Svechnikov is back and healthy. Kochetkov getting victories, and Brent Burns is a guy I'd be buying on right now, too.
It makes sense to me. When you're looking at the Canes, Brent Burns ranks third on the team in shots on goal this season, and that's normal for Brent Burns. He puts up those shots. He just hasn't been getting the opportunity to be too productive so far this year. It's Sebastian Aho, Necas, and then Burns, and we're talking about how good of a season Sebastian Aho is having. That's also kind of flying under the radar right now, guys. But Brent Burns is right up there with these top forwards on the Carolina Hurricanes roster. So any day right now, the flip could just switch and all of a sudden Brent Burns is going to look like himself again. The Canes, I'm not worried about them as a team. They're going through a little bit of like a low spell right now because they've had so many injuries. They've had issues in the crease. They've had a lot of tumultuous things happen behind the scenes, but they're figuring stuff out right now. Kochetkov's looking pretty good for the Hurricanes, and in 2024, when they have some stability finally, they're the team that's going to go on a heater and rise straight to the top of the standings.
The flip is going to switch, Nick. The flip is going to switch.
The switch is going to flip. Oh, my God.
Hey, it's
I'm still in holiday
season,
mood.
Bobby. Yes, exactly.
I don't even know what day it is right now.
Your thoughts on Burns, Pete?
Well, yeah, Burns, I was looking 11th among defensemen in shots on goal. That's a little lower than his track record for his career over the past, 5, 6, 7 years. But I expect him to get back to the top 5 when it's all said and done. And I mean, he's a little older now, so you're not going to see the same level of consistency, skating ability and stuff like that. But for his age, he is still a freak of nature. So I'm excited to see Burns turn it around. And we ran a poll on the fantasy Instagram about who's going to win the Metro. And it was like 80-something% said the Rangers. I mean, the Hurricanes are only 9 points behind them. So that's a good bet, in my opinion, to buy low futures wise on the Canes to win the division, because I don't think the Rangers are invincible.
Damn, if you polled me 48 hours ago, I would have said the New York Islanders. But then they no-showed for the game against the Pittsburgh Penguins, so I don't feel as bullish about them. But I think you're right. I think the Canes are a team that people are sleeping on. The second half is theirs to take. Let's weave that into the Zach Werenski injury replacements. Never talked about Zach Werenski being injured on this podcast. It's so unfortunate, and pardon the sarcasm, it looked pretty gruesome, but he goes down again. I think internally, in-house, you're looking at Ivan Provorov. External, Anna, is where I would look. Thomas Harley, we've talked about a lot the last couple weeks. Sean Dursey has mentioned. Scott Perunovich is the name I brought up. Of course, the correlation and the friendship there, obviously, with Drew Bannister, the new head coach there in St. Louis, and he's picking up a couple points. And Matthias Ekholm in Edmonton. But Columbus is finished, Anna.
They really are. You feel for Zach Werenski. This is a guy who he has such high individual ceiling, and he just keeps getting hurt year after year. And it's just been such a tough NHL career for him thus far. And this happening again, it's just brutal for him individually and Columbus overall as a team. But you mentioned some good players. I just want to shed some more light on Thomas Harley so far this season, because I feel like he's not getting anywhere near the amount of credit he deserves for the way he's been playing as of late. So he's currently third among defensemen in goals this season, guys. Like way up there. It's Dahlin, Hughes, and then Harley right there in the mix of Evan Bouchard and Cale Makar and all those guys we talk about all the time. So him being top 5 in that category is really impressive. Dallas is a team that can go on runs, as we've seen in the past. So I feel like he deserves a little extra airtime on this podcast.
And speaking of airtime, Pete, we didn't have a waiver wire edition this week, obviously because of Christmas, but a guy on your list was Brock Faber, right?
Right, yeah, you look at Faber, you look at Jamie Drysdale's another guy that I want to add to that list after he scored a goal last night. And the Anaheim Ducks, remember we were talking about them trying to sustain what they started, then they fell off a cliff because some of those injuries really started to pile up, but now they're getting healthy. McTavish, 3 assists yesterday, Trevor Zegras points in each of his first 2 games back, and Jamie Drysdale with a goal, 2 hits, 3 shots. playing power play 1, that's the spot that Minchikov was thriving in early, but that's his spot. And like Anna always says, like, that's one of my guys. He was injured last year, but I've always been a big Jamie Drysdale fan. Great to see him healthy.
Ducks fly together. Speaking of my guys, Adam Henrique contract year. Adam Henrique's been on fire. Bit of a waiver stream. Pick him up right now. But yeah, I like the appeal in general, Anna, of the Ducks. And, key point that Pete made, they're healthier, right? And even Frankie Vetrano got in the mix. The guy hadn't got a point, in like 2 months, and finally scores a goal, and the Ducks upset the Vegas Golden Knights. I think there's actually going to be a lot of value in the next little while in the Ducks because they're healthy, Anna.
They looked really, really good in that game. They did. I'll give them that. And they're a team that I'm looking at to stream depending on their matchups, but they don't have like the easiest earliest start to next year. They're playing like the Coyotes tomorrow, which, the Coyotes stay in every game, but after that, it's the Oilers, the Maple Leafs, and the Jets. So if this is the week you're looking to add some Ducks guys on your roster, you could wait it out till next week, the week after, where they have way better matchups. So
just wanted to add to Trevor Zegras, as Pete talked about, coming back from injury. He's got 1 goal, 1 assist, 1 power play point, 7 shots on goal. So I think if you need a center, you look there. I want to spend some time as well, Pete, just touching back and circling back on Patrick Kane. He is him. Looks 100%, producing like it. The record doesn't show forth for Detroit, 2-8-1 in 11 outings with Patrick Kane, Pete, but he's averaging a point per game, 6 goals, 5 assists, 11 points, and 11 for Patty Kane.
Yeah, the team concerns are a big deal right now because I think someone tweeted, was it you, Nick? Like, where's he going at the deadline? Like,
yeah,
that's what the storyline's going to be if Detroit really falls off like this. But he has been fire offensively. Patrick Kane of old, 5-game point streak, 4-game goal streak, tons of shots on goal even before he started heating up. So I'm excited about him individually. I think you can start to look at him where we kind of were conservative early on in our rankings, right, Anna, around top 100 overall. He's looking more like top 50 overall for the rest of the season, even if he does change teams again.
Yeah, he's performing really well. And I feel like even with the Rangers last year, not a lot of folks acknowledged the fact that he did pretty decent. It wasn't insane numbers, but he was pretty solid. So he's doing better than I thought he would. But I'm not really shocked by Patrick Kane playing like Patrick Kane. The Detroit Red Wings is a team, though, I'm seriously worried about because they can't make a save. And they're also top 10 in the NHL for the most shots allowed per game. So their defense isn't showing up night after night either for the Red Wings right now. And they looked really good to kick off the season without Patrick Kane. They get Patrick Kane. He's producing like a monster, and all of a sudden the rest of the team falls off. So I don't really know what the future's outlook looks like with
the big thing you mentioned there is the goaltending. Like both Husso and Lyon are out. They don't want to bring up Sebastian Cossa. I mean, they signed Michael Hutchinson, who's like an insurance patch at this point, and James Reimer can't make a save. Like even watching that game against Minnesota, they deserved better fate, and I could only wonder how Patrick Kane is feeling, where he took his time with this decision, goes there, looks healthy. But again, you can't make a save. You ain't winning a hockey game here, guys.
All you need to know about the Red Wings, look at, I think, Christmas Eve against the Flyers. I think they jump out to a 5-0 lead or something like that. Nick knows. Nick knows because I know Nick. I know Nick was on that game, and I know a lot about that game also. But you can't play like that every single night where it's 4-0, 5-0, and the next thing you know, it's tied up late. I mean, it's unsustainable, Nicholas.
I call that the pre-holiday sweat. I didn't need to sweat. I was at the gym prior to that game. It was like 5-love. Somebody I know close to this podcast sends a text. We nailed it on Detroit. I said there is 58 minutes remaining in this hockey game. We sweated it out. We got the victory. Bobby, since you're around, I mean, what'd you think of Bedard's Michigan move last week? He's starting to play pretty good, isn't he? Yeah, let's laugh it off, eh?
Listen, good for Bedard, okay? Again, I hate to say it. I might be the only one in the hockey community thinking about this, but Bedard is not going to be playing a full season, all right? I hate to tell you this, guys.
Where's he going?
I hope he does.
Russia? Or?
I hope he does. He keeps burying the goals and the highlight goals and all this stuff, but just wait. Just wave the flag.
Wave the flag.
I'm not waving that flag just yet.
Yeah, Bob's right. They're sending him to the World Juniors to play for Canada again. That's exactly what's about to happen right now, Bob.
32 points in 34 games, so above the point pace that would clear
we might be
that over.
Getting together for
nice
All-Star
hurdle.
Weekend, and he's going to hit 68.5. So We're at that point here, Bob.
You guys. Listen, nice little run for him. He has been unbelievable.
Little run.
Oh boy,
Yeah.
he's been great. But there's going to be a roadblock coming. There's always adversity, Nick. Nothing is as easy as it seems. Okay, there's always a roadblock.
They're not going to let Bob cross the border for All-Star Weekend if he keeps hating on Connor Bedard, Canada's national treasure, like this.
No, especially it's World Junior Season 2. Forget about it. I'm going to make Bob an oh boy t-shirt, okay? That's the next staple on this podcast. Tough to move on, Pete, but Alex Nedeljkovic, if I were to ask you right now, Pete, you probably know this because you're an Islanders fan. Would you ever guess that Tristan Jarry leads the NHL right now in shutouts? Because I wouldn't. He's got 4 and 23 after the shutty against the Islanders, but it's weird because Alex Nedeljkovic has been the better guy for like the last couple of weeks, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been getting more starts lately, and that result against the Islanders was surprising in general. Where you can't really write off the Penguins, can't really write off Chris Letang. We've been a little hard on him on this show, but he really bounced back in a big way with a career night, 6 assists. And another guy we've been hard on is Timo Meier, Davey. Davey kind of like put him down on the previous show, and he's bounced back ever since. 4 goals in his last 3 games. So round of applause for Timo.
There it is. Now I was trying to pull up my text because Davey Satriano thinks he's the Timo whisperer. He said Timo time. This was like minutes after the game ended. 5 goals in 3 games since I snubbed him. I said, attaboy, Davey. So
yeah, Timo Meier, big listener of the NHL Fantasy on Ice podcast. Guys, he listens to this before he goes to the games in the locker room, really riles him up, ready to go.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. So good on Timo Meier. I think the buy-low window is closing on him, closing on Chris Letang, so it's great to see there when it comes to the Pittsburgh Penguins. And we've been pimping this name for the past couple weeks. I think it's fair to say Pacioretty watch is on, guys. I think he makes his season debut this weekend. Pete, can you believe it's been almost a year since we saw Max Pacioretty in an NHL game? January 19th, 2023, so we're approaching that.
That's wild. I mean, it's a nice secondary scoring boost for Washington. We even got a fan question that I thought was a little outlandish, but we'll entertain it here. Jeff Skinner versus Max Pacioretty for the rest of the season. I told the fan that I would say Skinner pretty easily because Skinner's been extremely consistent through thick and thin for Buffalo over the past 2 seasons. But his case was that Pacioretty has a higher ceiling with the category coverage. And I get it. It's just too much of an injury concern for me. Very excited, that said, to see Pacioretty back in action.
I'm not sold on the Washington Capitals as a team, though. That's where I get a little bit concerned about where Max Pacioretty kind of falls into the mix, because the storyline for Washington this season really has been their goaltending right now that's been bailing them out and making them competitive night after night, because they don't have the shot volume they've had in the past. Their offense isn't producing the way they have in the past. They're not doing great in any of these offensive metrics. Their defense and their goalies are just there to play for the Washington Capitals right now. So you wonder where Pacioretty falls into the mix when the rest of their offense just doesn't really know what they're doing right now.
Hey, we had a big time development since the last time we spoke a week and a half ago. Alex Ovechkin scored a goal. So that's positive news. I do think Pacioretty shows up and actually boosts Ovechkin and company. I think he's a top 6 look, but I think that's fair to bring that up. Like, I mean, Jeff Skinner is the easy answer to those two, Pete, just more so because let's face it. I mean, this is it for Pacioretty. He's coming off 2 serious Achilles injuries. To come back from that to begin with is tough. Never mind a second one. And I'm just curious to see if he can stay healthy. I mean, knock on wood, great player. He'll score. He'll produce your fantasy team. But like at that age, what is he, 35, to come back from that injury? I'm very, very curious about that. But I think if Pacioretty stays healthy, I think he boosts his team big time.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same type of thing as like Aaron Rodgers, almost times 2, where you're like an older player.
Doesn't have the medicine that Aaron Rodgers has, though.
I'm not going to comment on that, but I'm just saying, like, this older player coming back from a ravaging injury, but Pacioretty had 2 of them, so it's just mind-boggling that he's even back. You give him a ton of credit from an individual motivation standpoint.
Dr. Bob, resident at Yale University, is taking a look at his scans, and I've determined that Pacioretty's career is toast.
Oh, wow.
Toast.
Did you say the same thing about Svechnikov?
I would steer clear of Pacioretty there for the fantasy roster, based on my years of expertise.
Wow. Okay, your thoughts, Anna?
Interesting.
I don't think you should trust Dr. Bob ever. If you walk into a medicine office and this is the provider you receive, please exit immediately. That's my
It
response
would
to
be
that.
strictly medicinal. Do not
The
forget that.
credentials from Yale University, a very, very, very world-renowned university, a very, very extensive research in the Achilles tendon is very difficult to come back from.
If you're a long-standing listener of this podcast, you know that producer Bob in general does not like or think guys coming off Achilles injuries can do anything in this league. So we'll see on Pacioretty. He didn't feel highly about Svechnikov. He's starting to be really, really good the last little while for the Canes. So that's all we'll say. Different age. Pete, some other names on the waiver wire list this week that you can give a shout out to if you'd like. Nick Paul, Thomas Tatar with Seattle, Johnny Gaudreau with Columbus, Alex Kerfoot with Arizona. Anybody you want to highlight specifically here, Pete?
Yeah, I wanted to touch on Thomas Tatar. It's been a pretty good fit there. He's playing top line, even after McCann came back from injury for a good stretch, Anna, with Beniers and Eberle. And that's a line that really needed a spark there. And it's just like a good change of scenery for Tatar. The Avalanche are reeling. We should get to them next. After that trade, not as a result, but like that's just another story. But 2 multi-point games for Tatar in his first 5 with Seattle.
Yeah, he has a little bump there with a new environment, but I'm just not sold on the Seattle Kraken too. There's a couple of teams that I'm avoiding this season in fantasy, and Seattle just doesn't look great right now, and they're one of them. And I think there are some better options on our list this week. Alex Kerfoot, I need to give a shout out to as well. I'm just a Yotes homer now, guys.
You are.
I really am right now, but look at where he's playing. He's playing with Clayton Keller and Nick Schmaltz, and he's barely rostered in fantasy right now. That's insane lineup placement. So Alex Kerfoot really stands out to me on that top line for the Coyotes.
As much as we're steering clear from them to an extent this season, though, like if you look back at 2023 at large, 2 names from the Kraken, Nick, really stand out within the scope of their positions. Jared McCann tied for second among NHL left wings in goals behind only Panarin. And then Vince Dunn on the blue line has had that full-fledged breakout that we were expecting for a few years. He's like top 5 in points, top 5 in even strength points. He has been a beast for that team, even as they've regressed a little bit this season.
Yeah, I saw a really good stat on Vince Dunn that he leads the NHL in stretch passes by defensemen. So there you go. That's an elite stat there. I saw that out in Seattle. But this guy's producing. I mean, anybody who can score for my fantasy team and notch points, like I'm all over it. I'm with Anna. I don't believe in the Seattle Kraken. The goaltending specifically scares the you-know-what out of me. Of course, they're going to take part in the Winter Classic here against the Vegas Golden Knights. Looking forward to that matchup. But those guys specifically, Matty Beniers, and I would throw into the conversation too. I think when it comes to the second half, I wonder if Seattle opens things up a bit more, similar to what we saw last year. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, though.
No, they're not. I just think a lot of people think they're Vegas. Everyone thinks they had a good year last year. They look pretty solid in the postseason, and all of a sudden, people think they're the Vegas Golden Knights. No, Vegas is a team that's built really well top to bottom, and that's why they've been this successful early on in their franchise history. And Seattle just isn't the same. They have some big holes, and I don't think they're going to be super competitive in the second half of the season. And there's just better options, guys. Like if you read our waiver wire list this week, Trevor Zegras is still not rostered in 50% of leagues. Like you got to pick up a guy like that. And Josh Norris, my goodness, like that's another player that you have to pick up. So there's a lot of better options out there. I think Seattle is a team that I'm just kind of staying away from. I just can't do it right now.
Well, Zegras is sitting on the bench for many fantasy teams because of his attitude, you know? I mean, he's a hot shot, thinks he's a prima donna, you know? I mean, with all these flashy moves. If you're building a successful fantasy team, you don't want that attitude on your team there, Petey.
He did lead the Ducks in points last year with 65, and I get it. A lot of people say he's overrated, like that the flash and moves and stuff like that doesn't translate. I'm excited to see what he could do with all those guys healthy around him. McTavish playing at an elite level and all these guys coming back from injury. The Ducks, unlike last year when he led them in points, like actually have a ton of talent right now, and they're starting to get healthy.
I'm coming on here with something completely unrelated to what we're talking about because time is running out and I need to throw this out there. I had an epiphany last night. I have placed a Stanley Cup future as of last night. It hit me. Who is the team that's built best for the playoffs at this point? Who's the team that can get into the playoffs and down the middle? They're so strong. I think the Kings could be the Stanley Cup champion this year just based off on how they are going to play in the playoffs and how they are built. So at around plus 1,400, you could probably get a better price than that. The Kings are in the Bob Bender jug for the Stanley Cup title.
I'm looking forward to Thursday night. It's Vegas and Los Angeles. I know Vegas is on the back-to-back after the loss against Anaheim, so that's going to be a good measuring stick game. But that division in general is pretty crazy. And I don't think it's outlandish that LA comes back and wins that division. You look at the games in hand, right? They're 4 games back of Vancouver with 5 points back and 4 games in hand. They're 5 games in hand on the Vegas Golden Knights. There's opportunity for Vancouver to grow, but I like that look with LA. Pete, again, the same answer for me is like the goaltending. Will it hold up when it matters most, Bobby boy?
Well, I'm just going to tonight against Vegas.
Yeah.
Give me the Kings tonight. Vegas is
like
struggling. It's Winter Classic week. Cassidy with some friction with the players, apparently.
Friction.
I'm seeing, Cassidy can wear you down. Okay, Cassidy's a great coach. He can wear you down, and you could have a little bit of that going on in Vegas. Remember, I got some inside sources over there in the Vegas facility.
We know.
But I like the Kings tonight, and then I'll give you another one to chew on tonight, all right? If you don't take Edmonton on the puck line, I don't know what's going on with your head. And then, you know what? I think Montreal could spring the upset on Carolina, but I do like the Kings tonight against Vegas.
Okay, I'm not crazy about the slate. I will say that Wednesday night slate, I went 4-0, which is great. I was hitting on things I didn't even realize I bet on. Philadelphia, I like that number at plus money. I think it's a good spot for them. I don't know how much coin I'm going to lay on that one, but there's nothing glaring on this card, Pete, including the San Jose Edmonton game. I just don't know what to expect from the Oilers. You like anything, Pete?
Well, I mean, Vegas, this is a tough matchup for them. And then the Winter Classic, like Seattle seems to be trending up a little bit, and their underlying numbers, like Anna referenced on a previous show, I know she's avoiding them, but like they've been strong in some certain areas, like shots on goal per game allowed and stuff like that, possession numbers. So, I mean, like I'm high on Seattle to win the Winter Classic, maybe even by multiple goals, because Vegas is dealing with injuries to goaltenders. Logan Thompson came back yesterday and got lit up by the Ducks, right? He's not healthy. I don't know why some of these teams do that when a guy maybe isn't fully healthy and they're just kind of
desperation.
Yeah, so, I mean, desperation. They won the Cup. They can afford a 5-game losing streak or something like that.
Cassidy does not accept any losses.
Petey.
Cassidy is a wild man.
So I like Seattle it's going to be a crazy environment there. I like Seattle in the Winter Classic. Just wanted to preview that. That's January 1st. Only game of the day, 3 p.m. Eastern on TNT. Can't wait for that one.
TNT. I got Biz with all the promos. I'm like going through Instagram. Every other post is Biz promoting the Winter Classic. Go watch it, folks, because it's going to be a spectacle. All right, Anna, you look very, very disinterested in this podcast. I'm going to give you the last word here. You have anything you got to say? Anything of value that you're looking at tonight? With the props. I mean, giving props, Anna. What do you got?
Well, I'm saving my excitement for this Winter Classic. I need to hold it all in until it comes around. But I do have some props. I have some pretty good value tonight in terms of individual players. Kotkaniemi, guys, getting a point tonight. That's plus money right there against his old team and the Montreal Canadiens like that. Quinn Hughes over 2.5 shots on goal against Philadelphia, also in the plus. Like that, I think that's really possible. And Zach Hyman with multi-point night against San Jose. So those are the 3 looks I have tonight.
I'm giving you props on your upcoming birthday here, right? So a big celebration in store for the only one and only Anna Dua. Pete,
yes.
What do we got going on next week? There it is. Round of applause
Yes.
first and foremost.
Guys, this is the last
birthday.
podcast of my early 20s.
Happy birthday.
Wow.
Pete, what's going on next week? Because I'm on hiatus, so it's up to you, Petey.
Well, I'd love to get the NHL Action Network collaboration going again, presented by Bet365. Stick with us for that, of course. And then, waiver wire pickups at some point, right? Monday is New Year's Day, so I think we'll be quiet then. But,
I'll be in bed.
Later in the week, it's going to be a blast, and we'll get the new year going in style.
Looking forward to Week 13. Many thanks to producer Bob Bender, for Pete Jensen and Anna Dua. I'm Nick Alberga. You've been listening to NHL Fantasy on Ice, delivered by Skip, the official food delivery app of the NHL.